So in 2017, there was the Muslim ban, and that denied visas uh, from those from countries that were majority Muslim. And so those countries included uh, Iran, Iraq, Sudan, Syria, Libya, Somalia, and Yemen. And race is highly suspected to have played a role in this policy, as these countries are predominantly black and brown. And many of the supporters of this ban and the policy architects um, were part of the Federation of American Immigration Reform and the Center for Immigration Studies, whose goals are to reduce the migration of non-whites to the United States. Also in 2018 was family separation at the border. So also this was enacted by Trump, who was president at the time, through his zero tolerance policy. This resulted in children being separated from their parents and then put into cages. This was also praised by people who affiliated with the Federation for American Immigration Reform and the Center for Immigration Studies, who once again their goal was to reduce the migration of non-whites to the United States. Um, so then in 2020, you have the COVID-19 health disparities, where Black and Hispanic people were disproportionately impacted by COVID due to working a lot of service jobs and face-to-face and being frontline workers. Also, this included grocery store workers, transit workers, elderly care workers. Additionally, they were more likely to live in multi-generational housing. Specifically speaking, though, about racism's impact on the health of families and health disparities, I look at the infant mortality rate that we have in the United States. So in the US, Black newborns die at 3 times the rate of white newborns. Studies have found that Black babies are twice as likely, though, to live when cared for by a Black physician than when cared for by a white physician. So there's definitely some racial bias in healthcare that is still happening today. It's very prevalent, that has dire consequences and dire impacts. So moving along, we have 2020 George Floyd racial reckoning. So in light of the killing of unarmed black man George Floyd, it became a movement. It became international movement against systemic racism and racial injustice, and calls for police reform. And it's not really discussed in open forum, but these killings certainly took a toll on the mental health of black men and women. And and I mean, it's not highly discussed, but it's definitely a cause for more mental health screening and just more evaluation of the impacts that these unarmed killings have on this community. In 2020, also there's hate crimes against Asians. So when the pandemic started, also a series of harassment and physical assaults of Asian Americans started, that were racially motivated. In 2020, there was at least 3,800 hate incidents reported that were against Asian Americans. So this also results in a heightened state um, of the threat of harm, which also can cause psychological distress. Also, I put this picture here. It's a memorial in Brooklyn for their transit workers who had died from COVID. And this image was striking to me because it does portray the impact that COVID has had on Black and Hispanic communities. So services that I found many great resources and services. So the ACLU, which is the American Civil Liberties Union, Their initiatives include ending cash bail, knowing your rights seminars, reproductive rights, LGBTQ rights, immigrant rights, ending the war on drugs and its impacts, voter rights education, and systemic equality. Those are some of their initiatives. And then the Urban League is a civil rights organization. Their mission includes economic empowerment and social justice for underserved communities. They provide job training, housing, community development, and they also have a health program called Project Wellness. The Southern Poverty Law Center tracks hate groups and hate crimes, and they expose their activities to the public, news media, and law enforcement. Their agenda they have is to dismantle white supremacy in the United States, and they support racial justice initiatives. So this is an organization that if I had a client who felt that they were a victim of a hate crime, this is a great service for them to get connected with. Also, for hate crimes against Asian Americans, I found Stop AAPI Hate. This group also tracks hate crimes. They provide legal services and they advocate for the civil rights of Asian Americans. I also found Facebook groups to be a great tool. Many people in the Asian community have created Facebook groups in their communities that offer someone to walk with them with their neighbor to a store or walk their children to school or pick up groceries. And it's Asian Americans doing this for other Asian Americans. And then they also host community events where they get to know the community and the community can get to know them and their culture, which I thought was really great. Then for home ownership, I found a organization by the name of 3 by 30 Initiative. And what that stands for is 3 million new black homeowners by 2030. They help with down payment assistance, homeownership counseling and education, credit and lending, and then civil and consumer rights. For immigration advocacy, I found Immigration Advocates Network, and they offer trainings for those in the immigration process. They also offer trainings for those who help people in the immigration process, such as applying for visas, basic immigration law courses, trial advocacy skills, torture claims, and then they also advocate for immigrant clients with mental health disorders. Another great organization was Just Neighbors. So Just Neighbors is based out of Northern Virginia, and they offer pro bono legal aid for low-income immigrants, asylees, and refugees. And then I found the Bail Project. The Bail Project, they provide bail assistance for people in need. They assist in reuniting families and restoring the presumption of innocence. So for mental health, I found some great organizations. So Ethel's Club, they offer a safe space to encourage one another. Um, they offer meditation, yoga, virtual group sessions with a mental health professional. And their slogan is an immersive wellness journey. So, and they're based offline, so they're easily accessible for those who cannot go in person or who do not want to go in person for many different reasons. So I thought this was very accessible. I found the Black Women's Health Imperative. Their initiatives include mental health services, advocating for affordable mental health rates, mental health awareness, and prediabetes education. And then I found Black Men Heal, and they offer mental health treatment, education, and resources to men of color, including the entire BIPOC community, which stands for Black, Indigenous, People of Color. So, interventions. On a micro level, I thought that spiritual engagement through a self care model was great. When you're trying to interact with someone right then and there, this intervention provides techniques that can be done very quickly in a short span of time, such as meditation, which can include chanting, drumming, humming, or just sitting in silence. Rest taking, which is like clearing the body, mind, and spirit. Prayer, um, And Dumbo and Gray 2013, they state that in the same way that physical exercise can reduce stress, regular spiritual practice of prayer or any practice that supports the meaning of life can reduce stress. They also note that the thoughtful and reflective practices such as prayer and meditation can boost serotonin levels and arousing spiritual practices such as singing and high engagement worship practices boost norepinephrine, I'm probably saying that wrong, and dopamine, which increase energy. So I thought that these would be great for someone who has racial trauma, uh, uh, or to help them have an intervention, a way to cope that they can do right there on the spot. At the meso level, I found Parent Child Plus, which was a part of the California Evidence Based Clearinghouse for Child Welfare. And I thought this was great because it's a home visiting program, so you're with the whole family, teaching them bonding skills, bringing doing educational activities and books and learning toys. And I thought this would be a great intervention for families who have dealt with separation or incarceration because it helps with the family bond, especially for a parent that had been previously incarcerated and returning home. At the macro level, I found policy advocacy and education to be what I would do. I guess the best option for me. I think that more pressure needs to be put on the U.S. prison system because the U.S. makes up 5% of the world population, but makes up more than 20% of the world prison population. So I think more pressure and knowledge of the negative impacts of incarceration and the impacts it has on families may help find more solutions for more people, and more people may reject this system. Techniques, I would say, partner with organizations like the ACLU on their incarceration initiatives, donate my time by volunteering and helping families with parental incarceration find resources and help them with information on reunification and reentry programs. And then just educating myself and my clients and others on the impact of incarceration and its ties to racism and its impacts on families. In conclusion, racism is not going anywhere anytime soon. When you look at the killing of George Floyd and how it took place, um, we just have a lot more reckoning to do. And recently, I mean, we've had two great bills passed: the Emmett Till Anti-Lynching Act, which was signed into law this year on February 28th, which made lynching a federal crime. However, it was 100 years, in the making. And it had 200 failed attempts to pass through Congress. Another bill is the COVID-19 Hate Crimes Act, which is the Anti-Asian Hate Crimes Bill. It was signed also, um, and although it's a bill and it's a law, uh, it's like, what does it do to actually stop the violence, to stop the attacks? How does it stop the attacks before they happen? And the same with the lynching. So we'll have to wait and see how those go. Um, And just for people who ask, like, how can they help? I would say support programs that help people who are most impacted by racism. Join organizations that do this. And these are my references. And I hope you enjoyed my presentation. Thank you.